The DPRK announced on early Wednesday morning that it successfully test-fired a newly developed intercontinental ballistic missile, Hwasong-15. The nation's leader, Kim Jong Un, said that after the missile launch, that the DPRK has finally realized the great historic cause of completing the state nuclear force. As in the past, the test drew strong condemnation from countries and international organizations, which did little to stop Kim's military ambition, at least for now.
It's hard to know how many times Ri Chun-hee, a senior broadcaster who only appears for significant developments, have announced a landmark in the DPRK's military program. For those who gathered outside Pyongyang's main train station, watching the news, it's another exciting moment that's worth celebrating.
I'm very confident. I think that the success of the Hwasong-15 launch today shows America and the whole world how strong our military power is.
The successful launch of a new type of ICBM, the Hwasong-15, is really surprising. It really makes me feel proud and confident in our Korean people.
But people on the other side of the fence are more upset than before. The South Korean military carried out an exercise right after the announcement.
This provocation had been foreseen and anticipated by our government, so we had prepared a readiness posture.
Moon had a phone conversation with the U.S. President Donald Trump over the missile launch.
Both leaders have agreed on an unyielding and forceful response against the DPRK's provocation, based on the solid combined defense of South Korea and the U.S., and also cooperate closely with the international community to continue pressure and sanctions on the DPRK to usher it along to the negotiating table.
China, for its part, said it was seriously concerned and opposed the DPRK's test firing.
China strongly demands the DPRK abide by the UN Security Council resolutions and refrain from actions that heighten the tension on the Korean Peninsula.
Beijing has proposed a dual-track approach, seeking to advance denuclearization and establish a parallel peace mechanism. It has called on Pyongyang to freeze its missile and nuclear activities and has called on Washington to put its joint military drills with South Korea on hold. But in the foreseeable future, both proposals wouldn't likely become reality, leaving the stability of the Korean Peninsula in limbo.
For more on the DPRK's latest missile launch, let's turn to our panel. We are joined in our Beijing studio, Zhao Tong, who is the associate at the Carnegie's Nuclear Policy Program, based at the Carnegie-Tsinghua Center for Global Policy. Welcome, sir. In Boston, in the United States, Jim Walsh, who is with the Security Studies Program at MIT, longtime observer of the DPRK nuclear program. I want to start with you, Mr. Walsh. Exactly, technically speaking, where is DPRK or North Korea right now in a possibility of launching nuclear weapons toward continental United States, even the United States capital, Washington, D.C.?
Well, I'd say it's getting pretty close. It's not quite there yet. There's still a few technical obstacles that have to be overcome, a re-entry vehicle, the miniaturization of a warhead that would fit on top of a ICBM, making sure it's really reliable, that it works when you want it to work, those sorts of issues. But in the main, they have built a missile that can reach the United States. They have built nuclear weapons in the past. So I think it's only a matter of time before they're able to marry the two different things that they have.
Probably the matter of time is even faster than the matter of time many people would imagine. Mr. Zhao, here is the statement coming from the DPRK side. It said, quote, completing the state nuclear force, end of quote. What exactly does that mean from your perspective?
I think that's the most important question everyone should be asking right now, because it could be a potentially very important signal that North Korean government is trying to send to everyone. In their official statement after the recent missile launch, they mentioned the word completion twice. It could mean that they think they have already obtained all the basic technologies for their missile program, and therefore there is no need to conduct additional missile tests anymore. If that's the case, I think that really opens a diplomatic opportunity for engagement. So this is where many experts disagree. Some believe North Korean they haven't obtained some remaining technical capabilities, such as the reentry vehicle, the militarization of warhead that Mr. Walsh just mentioned. But others believe maybe North Korea have already obtained that capability. And most importantly, for deterrence to work, North Korea doesn't need to have a 100% reliable capability. As long as it can plant some doubt in the mind of North Korea's enemy about whether the technology works, as long as its enemy believes that there is a chance it could work, then North Korea deterrence works, it holds.
But
so,
it depends on whether DPRK is really thinking about deterrence or other purposes, right? Because there is also a debate about what exactly is North Korea's purpose at the end of the day. Mr. Walsh, in Washington, that debate is more fearful than anywhere else in the world, I guess. What do you think are some of the biggest possibilities of DPRK's purpose? And as a result, how should the United States prepare for that? And of course, your allies too.
Well, as for North Korean intentions, there are several possibilities here. And of course, we don't know. We don't know what is in the mind of Chairman Kim. But one possibility is nuclear weapons are purely for deterrence, as our colleague was just discussing. And if that's the case, then we should be able to navigate this, because we don't want to attack them and they would not attack us. And we would have sort of classic Cold War deterrence. But it may be that there are other motivations that are driving Kim. One possibility is that he has adopted sort of a Pakistani strategy, that once he has the cover of nuclear weapons, he will feel emboldened to carry out smaller scale conventional provocations just below the nuclear threshold, thinking that his nuclear deterrent will give him protection. That would be a very bad outcome. That is obviously a much more aggressive, offensive dominated style. I think at the end of the day, North Korea just wants to be North Korea. You know, the Kim family wants to rule and hold on to power. That's probably the best bet, but we don't know. We simply don't know.
Mr. Zhao, do you know better?
Yeah, I think it's possible that North Korea has been watching international response rhetoric about its missile capabilities. Maybe they are even watching our show right now. So they know there is a debate within the international community about its ultimate intention behind its nuclear capabilities. So in its official statement released today, they made it very clear that they will not use their nuclear weapons unless their own security is infringed upon. And their nuclear weapons present no threat to any other country or any other region that doesn't threaten North Korea. So clearly it wants to clarify its intention, which is its weapons are primarily for strategic deterrence purpose.
Is it really true? An unnamed DPRK official was quoted recently by CNN saying there will be no diplomacy with the U.S. until it has proven its nuclear capabilities. First, the DPRK must test an ICBM capable of reaching the United States. Then it needs to detonate a nuke above ground. Experts say once this missile does have the capability of reaching the United States, even the Washington, D.C., if it is not fitted with a heavier warhead. Of course, all of these are the analysis experts give from outside the DPRK. What exactly is the situation? Nobody really knows. Here comes the thing, the dilemma. What should the other react? Because we all know it is the DPRK that is really driving the whole rounds of action and reaction, pro and con, and tit for tat campaigns. Yet, Mr. Walsh, some have noticed it's been 2.5 months since the last test of North Korea. It was only happening recently, 2 days after the United States. This administration right now in the White House declared DPRK once again going back to the list of countries that sponsor terrorism. Well, what should we make of it?
Well, I want to say, first of all, that no one enjoyed these past 2 months without tests more than I did. It was nice to have a break. That break seems to be over. Now, was the president's designation as of North Korea as a state sponsor of terror, did this cause this test? I don't think so. As we were just discussing, North Korea sort of has its testing plans. It's trying to reach a certain level of capability, regardless of what's going on politically. It has certain scientific or technological objectives so that it can achieve deterrence. It probably would have conducted this test anyway. But I will say I think the designation was unhelpful. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think North Korea is out there supporting Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab. And certainly there's at least the possibility, let me put it this way, designating them as a state sponsor of terror gave them no reason to not go ahead with their test.
All right.
In other words, you know, they were probably going to do it anyway, but certainly having that happen gave them the green light that they should go ahead.
Mr. Walsh, I also want you to clarify for us, if you know any better than all of us, President Trump talking about we'll take care of it, end of quote. What exactly does that mean? Yes. Does the United States have plans? Of course, there are plans that could be secretive, that nobody should know, otherwise it would not become plans for deterrence. And yet there should be plans, at least structures of plans, that everybody knows that could use also as a deterrence.
Yeah, so when you say, don't worry, I'll take care of it, that's another way of saying, I don't have anything to say. You know, there is no super secret magic plan to be used. The president has been in office almost a full year. This is the third ICBM test. If there was a super secret magic plan, I would think we would have already seen it by now.
All right.
What we have seen before is him saying this. He says, don't worry, I'll take care of it. I think he's just trying to brush off the questions.
I see. Mr. Zhao, question to you as well. What about from China's side? I mean, this is not long after China's president sent its emissary to the DPRK to brief the other side about the 19th Party Congress that this test happened. Meanwhile, China expressed a deep concern and also deep regrets about what exactly is happening. And yet, you know, it's already happened. What can China really do at this point?
You know, a major reason why previous diplomacy efforts with North Korea have largely failed is because North Koreans themselves didn't think they have got what they need in terms of nuclear and missile capabilities. But today, with this new ICBM test, they said explicitly they have completed their missile program. It seems that North Korea is signaling a willingness to undertake some self-restraint. The important thing is the international community takes upon this opportunity and try to encourage North Korea to go further to demonstrate its willingness to implement its self-restraint. We have previous cases where such opportunities for engagement were squandered. North Korea offered to suspend its nuclear missile test since 2 years ago until the last May, but that proposal was quickly dismissed. So we saw North Korea went ahead and conducted more tests to build better capabilities. I think right now we should take this opportunity and try to make North Korea better clarify what it means by completion of the program. Does it mean no more ICBM test or even including no more submarine launched basic missiles? I think that's very important.
But Mr. Zhao, let me just be realistic a little bit. Who will be able to do that, to ask them to clarify exactly what it means, because they are saying what they're saying as a result of trying to, you know, in a way, use it as a deterrence against the others who they consider as the enemy. Having said that, though, Mr. Zhao, China said deep opposition, deep concern against this strike, and yet what is the road ahead? The double suspension plan that China has been suggesting seems never comes into the ears of the United States, not South Korea either. Today, South Korea fired 3 missiles to, quote, show an attitude of force, end of quote. So what will be the plan? Are we going to wait just as we did 8 years ago with the Obama administration with so-called strategic patience, nobody doing anything, everything go ahead with DPRK? And here we are. Mr. Zhao.
I agree. I think with this additional missile test, during which North Korea demonstrated better capabilities, I think it deserves more economic punishment. I think that's what everyone is doing. There will be a new UN Security Council meeting very soon. there will be additional measures taken by the international community to further sanction North Korea, that's for sure.
Right.
But in order to understand whether North Korea is really serious about its rhetoric, the only way to do that, to know their intention, is to talk to them. Rather than relisting them as a state sponsor of terrorism, we should talk to them to ask them what you mean by completing your missile program.
Right.
And does that also include your nuclear program?
Okay, let's go to Mr. Walsh. Very briefly, your thoughts, sir. Next step for everybody else.
Well, Tian, you know I'm a fan of engagement. I agree with my colleague completely that we should be talking to them, if only out of our national interest, to protect ourselves against war by mistake. But when they say that they've completed that missile program, that might really only be referring to the ICBM. I fear that we are going to get submarine launched ballistic missile testing over the next period of time. That's going to make engagement difficult. When we had that 2 months of quiet, that was really the chance to get serious about diplomacy. We are now once again in a season of testing sanctions, which will be followed by large-scale military exercises by the U.S. and South Korea, and the North Koreans refusing to talk to us.
Right.
I hope we haven't missed an opportunity these past 2 months, but I do think we're going to get more testing of one kind or another.
You know what? I really want to disagree with you, but it seems that some of the things you just mentioned, Mr. Walsh, could be some of the realities to happen. For now, I want to thank both of you for coming over to our show on a very short notice. Zhao Tong and also Jim Walsh. Really appreciate, gentlemen, for being with us.